Give me 3 minutes and I'll give you the best hack I know to wildly successful prioritization. Prioritization is the Achilles heel of strategy. If people are working on the wrong priorities, they are generating waste. So let's talk about prioritization. Everybody probably knows some version of the Eisenhower matrix, which basically says what's important and what's urgent. The problem is everything is important and everything is urgent these days. That makes it really hard to differentiate between what matters most and what doesn't, because as soon as I turn my attention to one thing, somebody else or an email or a phone call is going to come in and disrupt what I'm working on. And that applies to everybody on your team. So let's get away from important and urgent. Let me give you my hack. It's called 5-6-7 thinking, and it was created by Dr. Len Bertain. We know the 80-20 principle, and that 80% of all of our big outputs come from only 20% of our inputs. But what if we could get even more refined? We could get more specific, because to be honest, there's still too much out there for us to figure out what the 80-20 really is in our day-to-day operations. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough budget. We don't have enough data. We don't have enough of anything that we really need to bring that 80-20 fully to life the way we would want to. So how do you get your momentum to turn in the right direction with a small amount of resources and a small amount of talent, and frankly, a small amount of information? Which brings us back to 5-6-7 thinking. How can we identify that 5% of things that we can do now that will get us 67% of the way there as quickly as possible? It's essentially the algorithm for Jim Collins' flywheel. Every great transformation from good to great involved being able to get small, quick wins in place, in motion, now. You take the greatest outcome that you can get divided by the least amount of time, the least amount of cost, and the least amount of disruption. That's 5-6-7 thinking. What that means specifically is you take the biggest outcome you can possibly get. Sometimes you can get a massive win accomplished quickly just by doing a few simple things. But if you could get even a medium-sized win in 3 months or less, least amount of time, with the least amount of cost, use the resources you have, or even use less than what you're already using, with the least amount of disruption. How can we keep everything else in motion and not stop it in order to make progress in one very targeted place? And that's the key. How do we get the biggest possible outcome in the least amount of time, with the least amount of cost, and the least amount of disruption? And I'm telling you, those small wins become the momentum you need to build breakthrough performance.